Salvete omnes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our continuing slash final coverage of Caesar's Gallic Wars. We've just got a few sections left in Book 6, and that'll do it for Caesar. So, I don't know what to say. On the one hand, I'm excited that we got all the way through it. On the other hand, I'm kind of sad because I like Caesar. Well, I like Caesar as a historical figure. I would probably not be friends with Caesar if he were alive today. I imagine. He's perhaps a bit too full of himself. But that is neither here nor there. Let's learn a little bit more about the Gauls. So we pick up in section 19. Very end of 18, we suddenly just started talking about kind of family for the Gauls, which is weird because it's kind of like 16 and 17 and the first half of 18 are kind of talking about the gods and the religious aspects and kind of views of the Gauls. And then suddenly, by the way, they think it's disgraceful for their sons to be seen in public with their fathers. And you're just like, what? We just talked about like night is the beginning of everything, the days, and now suddenly it's like it's disgraceful for sons. So I blame the editors for their division of the manuscripts. I can't imagine that Caesar made this division. It seems so unnatural. Regardless, we pick up at 19. We continue to talk about the kind of family structure of the Gauls. So let's dive in. Weary quantas pecunias ab uxoribus dotis nomine acceperunt, tantas ex suis bonis aestimatione facta cum dotibus communicant. You get those ends in there harder. So men. And I think it is men, but men in contrast to uxoribus. So you could perhaps, some dictionaries will say that we're can be translated as husband. It can mean man. It's generally man. It can also mean hero, which, yeah, in very specific contexts, perhaps. Or husband. And again, I think that's kind of in specific contexts, such as here. Usually just means man, and at any point, it means man. But I'm going to translate it as husbands here, just because of what we're talking about. Husbands. And we get these correlatives. Quantas, tantas. So, how much money, or the amount of money they receive from their wives in the name of a dowry, the same amount of money, pecunias, with an estimation made from their own goods, from their own wealth, with an estimation, with a value made, they equal that, or they make it common. They combine it with the dowries. So a wife brings X amount of value from a dowry, right? The gift for taking a daughter off of a father's hands. So however much a wife brings as a dowry, a husband equals that. He puts the same amount of money into this common fund, right? He communicants it. The men equal, they combine it with the dowries. All right. Huius omnis pecunia conjunctim ratio habetur fructusque servantur. Uteriorum vita superarit ad eam pars utrisque cum fructibus superiorum temporum per venit. So an account for ratio, an account, or I mean it's a ratio, right? An account, a reckoning, a balance, perhaps. A balance of all this money is held jointly. Conjunctum, it is held, jointly together. And interest, fructus, profit, fruit, right? Interest is kept. Interests or profits are preserved. The one of them, uter, one of the two, the one of them who, so kind of like whichever of them surpasses in life, vita ablative here of manner, right? Whoever, whichever of them surpasses in life, or basically lives longer, but literally like surpasses in life, to that one, the part of the other one, with the profits of previous years, goes to. All right, so the one who lives longer, to the person who lives longer, the basically the whole pot goes to, right? The part of them with the profits of various years goes to them. So they have this joint savings account, basically, and kind of like a life insurance policy. So if one of them dies, the other one gets is taken care of, gets this savings account, which sounds very equal. You're like, oh wow, that's great. They kind of work together in such a way. However, the rest of it kind of makes you wonder, what's the point? Makes me wonder what's the point anyway. Weary in uxores sicuti in liberos vitae nequisque habent potestatum, et cum pater familia illustriore loco natus decessit, eius propinqui conveniunt, et de morte, si res in suspicionem venit, de uxoribus in servilem modum quaestionem habent, et, si comparatum est, igni atque omnibus tormentis excruciatas interficiunt. Sigh. Men, perhaps husbands, but men, have the power of life and death. I'm going to translate in as over their wives, just like they have over their children, or they have the power upon their wives, something like that. But yeah, so they have the power of life and death over their wives, just like over their kids, which is slightly extremer than the Romans. For the most part, the Romans may more or less have the power of life and death over slaves. I don't think quite as much over their wives and children, but yeah. So again, you're kind of like, oh, cool. Women are viewed a slightly higher point than you might imagine for the ancient world. Well, not quite, because men could still kind of kill their wives whenever they wanted. And it goes further. Whenever how do I want to translate this? Whenever the son of a pater familias, whenever the son of the head of the household. Oh no, sorry, pater familiae. I always get thrown off by the grammar. Pater familiae is your nominative. It's one word. It's two words combined as one. Familiae genitive, pater the nominative. Whenever the father of the household, whenever the head of the household, this word is the head of the household. So whenever the head of the household, born in an illustrious location, born in a higher location, whenever the head of a household dies, particularly the head of the household of a upper class family dies, his relatives convene, his relatives come together, and if the matter of the death, if the kind of the affair of the death comes into suspicion, so he dies, but like he's not dying at the ripe old age of 80, if the matter comes into suspicion, they hold I'm going to say interrogation for Quaesium. They have an interrogation, or an investigation of the wives. Maybe investigation is good. They have an investigation of the wives in a slave-like manner. Servilem modum. For ancient Romans and Greeks, for what it's worth, If you're going to interrogate slaves, you torture them because a slave will tell you the truth under torture. And so that seems to be what they're doing here. They would torture the wives to see, did you have your husband killed? Did you poison him, etc., etc. So they have this investigation in a servile manner over or for the wives. And if it is determined, I want a better way to translate this. Because it's not just like if it's uncovered, but I guess kind of it's like basically if they're found guilty, right? Yeah. Kind of if it has been proved. So this is going with kind of going with suspicionem, or I guess quite. These are all feminine, and this is masculine or neuter. Yeah, kind of like if the whole investigation, right? If all of these affairs, if all of this stuff is proven that she had him killed, or she killed him, then they kill the wives, tortured by fire and all torments. Tortured with all tortures and fire. Yeah. So, women seem to be treated somewhat fairly, right? They have joint savings accounts with their husbands. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Women are still treated as slightly above a chair. Very sad, very disappointing. We've slightly progressed from that, but still, the fact that it even happened, it just kind of like, I get disappointed every time I read this. So, there you go. Let's just get through this. Funera sunt pro cultugalorem magnifica et sumptuosa. Omnia quae vivis cordi fuisse arbitrantor in ignem inferunt. Etiam animalia ac Paulo suprahanc memoriam servi et clientes. Quos ab eis delectos essa constabat. Justis funeribus confectis uno crema bantor. Weird. It just feels weird. So, the funerals are magnificent and lavish. This is funny. For the culture of the Gauls. So, it's apparently doesn't reach magnificent and lavish levels by Roman standards, but it's kind of like this basically says by Gallic standards, these funerals are magnificent and sumptuous. But the Gauls, they are poor and uncivilized, so they're not that great. Okay, so Caesar just kind of little digs towards the Gauls here. So they're lavish and extravagant. And all of the things which they believe or which they judge were dear for them while alive, they kind of bring them or they throw them into the fire. Grammatically, cordi, dative of purpose, literally the things which were for their heart. So, dear in this case, right? The things which the dead people, basically, which they loved while alive, those things are put into the fire. So they have a favorite lamp, that gets cremated with them. Maybe a favorite book, a favorite outfit, or something like that. So the things which were dear to them while alive, they're brought into the fire. Even animals. So a pet cat or something. And this is an interesting phrase. So supra means above this memory, and it's Paulo supra. It's a little above this memory. So the idea here is that what I'm about to say hasn't happened nobody alive remembers this sort of thing happening. So that's the idea of this memory, right? So nobody alive has memory of this happening, but, maybe somebody remembers their parents talking about it. So it's just a little beyond living memory. So what else do they bring into the fire? So actually, inferent is Animali is the object, or is the subject, I should say, I think, of Crema Bantor. So even animals and slaves and clients, even, are cremated. So, yeah, right? I recognize cremating or burying a favorite book with somebody, or people want to be buried in their favorite outfit, maybe, or something like that, right? So I get that. Animals, it's a bit of a stretch wanting to be buried with your pet cat or dog or whatever. But some people were even cremated with their favorite slaves and clients, like employees. Could you imagine your boss dies and they determine that you were their favorite employee? You should be cremated with them. Apparently it's not done anymore, right? It's just a little beyond living memory. But even animals and slaves and clients were cremated together with them, with the appropriate funerals finished. Slaves and clients, so I guess I should do this. Slaves and clients, which it was agreed were cherished by them. So the slaves and clients, which kind of everybody agrees were beloved by them, they are cremated together with them once the kind of appropriate funerals had been held. Yeah, I have no words. Again, this is probably probably so along the lines of Illustriore Loco, right? These are like the cream of the crop. A regular guy might be buried with some cherished belongings, maybe with a pet. I can't imagine that some just pleb, right, is going to be buried with his slaves and any slaves and clients. But there you go. So the Gauls, definitely a bizarre kind of culture for us, for the Romans even, and definitely for us 2,000 years later. So, all right, last section 20. Quae civitates commodius suam republicam administrare existimantur, habent legibus sanctum. Si quid de re publica affinitimus rumora aut fama acceperent, uti ad magistratum deferat, neve cum quo alio communicet, quod saeper omnes temerarios aqua imperitos falsus rumoribus terreri, et ad facinus impelli et de summis rebus consilium capra cognitum est. All right. So, I'm trying to think of how to take this. So, I think a thing which the states sorry, I'm gonna have to look this up. I know what it's saying, but I'm not sure. I don't remember how it's saying it, and this is what happens when you do it somewhat cold. Okay. Yeah, so Caesar has put the antecedent inside the relative clause. So civitates is kind of both the subject of existing montor as well as the subject of operant. So which states do this, or the states which do this also do this. So the states which are considered to manage their republic, to manage their state rather conveniently. So the states which perhaps manage their affairs better than others, those states which are believed to manage their state more effectively, they have it, or they hold it sacred by law that indirect statement, indirect statement, kind of off of sanctum. They kind of hold it sacred by law that. So what is held sacred by law? That if anyone, so here, like I mentioned this a couple of videos ago, right after si, nisi, numen, ne, all the allies go away. So you could translate this, or it's easier to translate as si ali quis ali quid. So both quis and quid here are going to get that extra ali put in front of them. If anyone, a caperate, I'm going to say hears, for a caperate literally receives, right? If anybody hears anything, or if someone receives something or hears something concerning the republic, concerning the state, from their neighbors by rumor or by I don't want to say fame, rumor or gossip. So if anybody hears something it's kind of like something that concerns the republic from their neighbors, if they do that, it is kind of held by law that, and I think uti here is going off the sanctum, that the result is, if they hear this, they communicate, or that they defer what they hear to the magistrate. So they refer this information to the official, the mayor or whatever, and they don't, ne, we, so nor. So that they communicate it with the magistrate, and they don't communicate it with anyone else, with any other person. So, using a very modern example, consider what happened at the Capitol a couple of weeks ago, right? There was chatter online about such events, right? If you would have heard something like that, if you would have heard that somebody was going to the Capitol for a protest, if you heard that, like you heard one of your neighbors talking about how they're making a trip to DC, you would tell your local official, your mayor or governor or whatever, hey, so-and-so said that he was going to do this concerning the Republic. And you wouldn't tell anybody else that you heard that. You would tell the official, but you would tell nobody else what you heard, because often, cognitum est, I think, is where we want to go. Because often it is learned, or it has, often it's found out that that rash and inexperienced men, temerarios atque imperitos, so that kind of rash and reckless, or temerarious, rash or reckless, or just kind of hasty, temerarious, prone to act without thinking, and imperitos, inexperienced, right, unknowledgeable, almost, maybe not ignorant, but maybe ignorant might even work here. Kind of rash and ignorant men are terrified by false rumors, and they are compelled to crime, ad facinus, and they are believed to come up with plans come up with plans about the most important things. So your average citizen may not act appropriately if he hears a false rumor. Consider anything that's happened in at the recording of this video in the last few weeks or months, right? Consider all of the crazy things that people have done concerning false rumors, right? And how crazy people act when they hear something that is not substantiated. So, in Gaul, if somebody hears something crazy, they don't spread the gossip with their neighbors or friends or family, right? They don't communicate with anyone else. They take it to the authorities. It's like, hey, this was said about X, Y, or Z. You should, would you investigate this? Or what can you tell me about this? What should I do? Right? Because men, it's been learned that men don't always behave wisely by false rumors. So, there you go. Boy, this is hitting harder than it has in years past. Magistratus quae visa sunt occultant, quaeque esse ex usu judica verunt multitudini prodent. De republica nisi per concilium loqui non conceditur. The magistrates, magistratus, fourth declension, neuter plural here with occultant, the officials hide what seems best. So visa sunt means just to be seen or to seem. It can often have you can also often put best with it. They hide what is seen best or what seems best. They hide what seems best and what they judge to be, I'm going to say useful, ex usu, from use or from benefit or something like that. So what they judge to be useful, they produce or they deliver, they give to the multitude. So, so they're given some information. If it's a false rumor, they're not going to tell anybody, right? They're just going to that's not true. Don't spread that rumor. Or perhaps it's a state secret and they're like, we're not going to tell anybody that, right? But maybe you heard that this person wants to start a rebellion against the leader. Maybe you tell the rest of the people, hey, so-and-so doesn't agree with our policies. So-and-so wants to rise up. We don't tolerate that around here. So, right, so the officials are going to control the media. They're going to suppress what they think is best to suppress, and they're going to disseminate what they judge is best to disseminate. Last sentence. It is, I'm going to say it is not allowed, non-conceditor, conceded, right? It is not conceded. It is not permitted to speak about the republic, about the government, perhaps, except through the concilium, except through, town halls or something like that, through meetings or the council. So, you don't just talk about how terrible the tax code is or something in the state, just to your neighbors, around. If you have a complaint, if you want to talk about the republic, about the government, you must do it through government channels. And this is done by the states. Again, the beginning sentence, right? This is done by the states, which are believed to manage their affairs more conveniently or just better. So the best run states have state media and perhaps a little bit of propaganda and whatnot. So very interesting kind of descriptions of the Gauls. Definitely, like I said, it kind of hits a little bit harder this year than it has in years past, these passages. So think about, you know, just think about that in light of recent events, and you kind of see why the Gauls may or may not have done certain things the way they did them. So that finishes Caesar. That's the end of book 6. That's the end of the Latin we read for Caesar, as far as the AP curriculum is concerned. So there is still English that you should read, and all that is available in our textbook for my classes. The AP website obviously has the reading lists available for you as well, and whatnot. So that does it for this video and these videos. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below, hit me up in class, or email me. With that, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Later.